I have to say that it's a bit surprising to see a CMC-centered episode that doesn't have any appearances from Applejack, Rarity, or Rainbow Dash. I mean, think about it. Have the CMC ever been able to drive a story without any help from their sisters? Or their idol? The only episode I can think of that even comes close would be Just for Sidekicks, and that's actually Spike's story. It's nice to see that the writers are giving a little more maturity to the CMC here by allowing them to learn a lesson without any help from their sisters or their idol. And that's what I'd like to focus on today. It feels like the CMC are growing as characters, and this is made apparent right from the opening scene. We see Sweetie Belle making real progress on starting to use magic. We've seen little hints of her magic here and there before, but hopefully now we'll be seeing Sweetie Belle using levitation to do most things just like her sister does. That would show some great continuity in MLP, as well as showing that the CMC are not the same fillies that they once were. We see Scootaloo wanting to be shown how to put a unicycle together, but Twilight tells her to find the instructions, not wanting to do the work for her. And I can really appreciate how Twilight is teaching the fillies about responsibility here. But while teaching Apple Bloom the ins and outs of making potions can certainly lead to some interesting story elements in the future, I have to wonder about what might happen to Apple Bloom if she were left to her own devices. I was a little surprised to see Pip making a return, and even being given some dialogue. I thought that he was just supposed to be another one-shot character, but I guess he works out well enough here. Makes me curious about whether he'll be getting more involved in any future stories. When Diamond Tiara brought her butler out to do some acrobatics for her, I was already getting an idea on what kind of moral they intended to teach. But I will give the story credit for actually surprising me in a number of different ways throughout the episode. It is easy to see just how this story will come to an end, but I am glad that the writers did not make the episode quite as predictable as it could have been. And addressing Twilight's newfound popularity that came with her position is something that really does need to be addressed. And I do think that having the CMC along with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon were a good way to bring that story element to light. What worried me though was whether or not the CMC were going to be acting less likable in order to make the conflict work. But again, the writers make it work because the CMC didn't start out by inviting Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon in the hopes of becoming more popular. It was more about trying to have them learning something instead of putting all the hard work on others. And it wasn't until later on that it became an issue of popularity and getting favors. I was a little intrigued to see that Sweetie Belle was the one who was spearheading this though. Throughout many of the past episodes, she's often been following the lead of others, but it makes for a nice change to see that that behavior is not always constant. Which again shows that she is growing as a character, and that makes her more interesting to watch. Now, I will say that I'm not seeing anything new with Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon here. While in Flight to the Finish it was interesting to see a new low for their characters, in this episode there really isn't anything that we haven't seen from them before. Unless you count seeing Diamond Tiara's house. But really, these two are just becoming too predictable and repetitive in their behavior. And every time I see that happening, I lose a little more hope that we'll be seeing any real depth to their characters. I do find it a bit interesting that we get a lot of Twilight but almost nothing from the rest of the main six. Pinkie Pie's role in the episode is so short that it becomes little more than a cameo. And I suppose that does put a lot more pressure on the CMC to carry the episode, even though we do get some more adorkable behavior from Twilight. Aside from some of the cute moments here and there though, there isn't really a whole lot that stands out, at least for me. I do like that the CMC are able to learn a bit more about themselves and their talents without putting so much focus on getting a cutie mark. I do like the fact that they are maturing a little bit more and growing as characters. I do like that there were parts of this episode that made me curious about where they were going to take it. But I don't remember that many laughs or that many interesting scenarios. The writers did manage to keep focus where it should be without any of it feeling rushed. But at the same time, Twilight Time doesn't feel like it had any of the standout moments that you find with a lot of the other episodes. It didn't really leave much of an impression, good or bad. I was really having to strain myself just to come up with things to talk about, and I don't think that's a good sign. But at the same time, I don't find anything really wrong about the episode either. I like that the CMC are learning something that they haven't learned before, but I don't think that the message applies to adults quite as much as some of the other lessons in the series. I will say that when Twilight was going through trying to teach others about something worthwhile, I could actually relate to her struggles. I too like to spend my time trying to be a good influence, all the while hoping that those who come to my channel are learning something relevant. And seeing Twilight having to deal with others that are only seeking to talk to a celebrity makes me wonder about whether I really am making a difference here. I don't know, but perhaps I'm getting a little off topic for an episode review. In the end, I did like watching Twilight Time for the few good moments it had. But I have to say that this episode left less of an impression on me than any other episode in Season 4 thus far. I don't really have that many positive or negative things to say about it. I do hope that the CMC will continue to grow more as characters, especially with Sweetie Belle now being able to use her magic. And I do hope that there will be more scenarios where Twilight has to learn about the responsibilities and hardships that come with her position. It's just, maybe I've gotten used to the fact that there has been a consistent wow factor with at least part of every episode this season thus far, and Twilight Time just didn't quite measure up in that respect. I enjoyed seeing it, but I can't really think of any reasons to revisit the episode anytime in the near future. But then again, I do admire the fact that Twilight is so patient and understanding even when she is being put into awkward situations. Like I said, the way they wrote out this story doesn't make any of the main characters any less likable. And I can praise the message of improving upon yourself for the sake of being a better person, and not because it will get you attention. That at least is something that a lot of us can relate to. In the meantime, though, I would like to hear from each of you. Do you think that there are any standout moments in this episode that I may have missed? Could there be something deeper going on with the characters that I hadn't touched on? Have any of you been learning anything relevant from listening to all these videos I make? I would like to hear your thoughts about Twilight Time, and here's to looking forward to the next episode where we get to see some permanent character growth. I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you.